Testing, testing. Good afternoon. If you're just joining in on YouTube Live, we appreciate it. Getting started here in just a few more minutes. Thank you for tuning in. Excited about today's show. Excited for the Brewer game tonight. Excited for the Brewer season. Welcome to the live stream. Guys, if you're just tuning in, just hang tight. Just getting the last few things tightened up here. Waiting on our guest to come on here, which should be in about 15 or so minutes, but I'll be going live, officially starting the show here in about 3 minutes. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate it. I know it's a little bit of a weird time today, but sometimes different is good. Appreciate all the support. You guys have been phenomenal, all of you. Fun guests lined up for today. If you're tuning in, Steve Sparky Fifer is joining me in about 15 minutes. Thursday is going to be a fun guest. I can't wait to dive into that one. If you guys are just tuning in, I appreciate it. I see you hopping on. Give me about 2 more minutes here. We'll get rolling. Just trying to give everybody a few minutes to jump on here. Tweet it out here. Thanks for hopping on, Dad. I see you. Appreciate you. Good to get the podcast in before the Brewer game starts, I guess. That's the benefit of starting a little bit early. Nothing wrong with that. I think it's a 6 o'clock game. Check that real quick. $6:40 again. Okay, I thought I saw 6 o'clock. That's okay. Just 1 more minute here. Tuning in. We'll be going here soon. Hope everybody out there is doing well today. Hopefully it starts getting a little bit warmer out there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another awesome show here on the Brew City Lounge. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy days to pop in and take a listen. Super excited about today's show. In about 15 minutes, I will be joined by special guest Steve Sparky Fifer. You can find him over at 1250 AM The Fan. So I am super excited about that. I hope you guys are doing great out there. If you're in Milwaukee, welcome to the show. If you're in Wisconsin, welcome to the show. Anywhere that you're listening or watching on YouTube, thank you for tuning in. It's greatly appreciated. A jam-packed show, lots to break down, lots of Brewer stuff. Dive into some of Giannis's stuff, see where the Bucks are at as far as their current state injury-wise. So we're just getting rolling here and super excited. Bucks won Sunday in Orlando, 124-87. Sitting at 33-20, still breaking that, or still haven't broken that 3-game behind lead on Brooklyn and Philly. So we're excited to see maybe the last stretch of the month where the Bucks go. There was reported today that Giannis and PJ Tucker did practice, so that if you're a Bucks fan, you're looking at that like, wiping the sweat off your brow a little bit. I know I am. I know Giannis is the type of player that doesn't necessarily miss games, so it's exciting to see him back in action. Hopefully, I think their next game is until Wednesday evening, if I'm not mistaken. So that will be exciting to see what they do. But again, the Bucks. I think honestly, where we're at with the Bucks is where we're going to be at. I think where they're at in the 3 seed is probably where we're going to sit. I don't think that they're going to move up to the 1 or 2 seed. And, quite frankly, I'm not 100% sure that they really want to. The last 2 years, the Bucks have been the number 1 seed. Obviously, last year was a little bit, weird. They had a month, or what was it, 3 months off in between playing a playoff game. So, do you count the bubble as a playoff, number 1 seed? Sure. It kind of didn't matter. But the year before that, 2019, going up against the Toronto Raptors in the Eastern Conference Finals, probably your best chance at getting to the finals and more importantly, probably winning the finals. If you're just tuning in, thank you very much. We're already started here. We're breaking down some Bucks talk and we're going to get into some Brewer stuff. Steve Sparky Fifer is going to join us here in about 15 or so minutes. I'm excited to get his thoughts where he's going with the new radio shows that are happening over at 12:50 a.m. The Fan. But we're still breaking down the Bucks, and this is the exciting time in the NBA. Playoffs are happening, player moves are happening, transactions are happening, injuries are happening. Prayers out to Jamal Murray last night. Tore his ACL, was reported by Shams this morning. You hate to see injuries, no matter where, no matter what happens. I lived in Denver for a while. You hate to see that for that fan base. They're passionate about their Nuggets, really about all their sports, but you hate to see that. That was a team up and coming in the West, and maybe a team that could have pushed LeBron over the edge a little bit, and maybe taking them, taking their spot in the West. So you hate to see it. Injuries suck. We're dealing with that on our own here, or anxiously awaiting to see how Giannis responds with his knee injury. PJ Tucker practiced today. Chris Middleton was out, back soreness. Drew Holiday had a knee contusion. So it's all about getting healthy. It's all about getting ready for the playoffs. We know that. None of this matters. Regular season's fun. Yeah, sure. Tuning in on a Saturday night, TNT, listening to Shaq and Barkley go at one another. That's great. It's a blast. Don't get me wrong. I love NBA basketball. But man, we need the playoffs to be something that we love. We need the playoffs to be successful. We need to be getting excited about Eastern Conference Finals every year, getting to the finals. You got the best player in the NBA. You could argue, sure. Yeah. You can argue that Giannis isn't the best player in the NBA. But you still got a top player in the NBA. The ceiling is now raised. It's up. Screw that second round. I don't care about getting a number 1 seed in the regular season. I care about winning in the playoffs. And quite frankly, this could be jumping ship a little bit. And I try to keep the show as positive as possible. We could be seeing Mike Budenholzer on the hot seat. Very much so. Could be his make it or break it year in the playoffs. This would be the 3rd straight year. Obviously, you were in Eastern Conference Finals 2 years ago, and last year was a 2nd round exit. This year, there really is no excuses. This is probably the best team Giannis has around him as far as starting lineup goes and bench goes. Very athletic, very young. Thanasis, frustrating defender for opposing players. Bobby Portis coming off the bench, consistently giving you 15, 17 points per game, adding 6 or 7 rebounds a game. Drew Holiday. You guys know how I feel about Drew Holiday. If you tuned in last week, or you followed us, and again, get your wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Google, Spotify, download the podcast, get the show at Brew City Lounge. If you tuned in last week, you guys already know how I feel about Drew Holiday. In my eyes, in my opinion, he's the best two-way point guard in the NBA. And we can sit back and go back and forth. And sure, Russell Westbrook, nothing against him. He's going to give you 30 points. He's going to give you 10 rebounds. He's going to give you 9 assists. What's he doing on the other side? To win championships in the NBA, and we've seen it, LeBron with the chase down block on Andre Iguodala in the 2016 finals. Iguodala the year before shutting down LeBron. You got to play defense, especially when you're going up against a team with massive superstars in the Brooklyn Nets eventually. You could even put Philly in that category. So I'm excited to see where they're going. Last week I broke into who was the Bucks number 2. We kind of went back and forth with some of the people were dropping by and dropping comments, and some said Middleton, some said Drew. And again, I mean, either one is fine. I don't think you really have a problem if it's either one. I think you're fine either one. But what matters is what you do in the playoffs. I don't care who your number 2 is. I don't care if Giannis is dropping 48 points. What's your number 2 doing? Because he's not going to do it on his own. We already know he's going to run into a wall. We already know the NBA refs are going to screw him. We already know the other team is going to flop. We already know these things. These are things that we know. These are factual things. These are things that we have physically have seen and have dealt with. We have thrown our remotes on the floor. We have screamed at our phone. We have angrily texted tweets to the universe. We know what's going to happen when it comes to things out of our control. What can we control? What can the Milwaukee Bucks control to take that next step? Because I'm tired of not having a championship team in this city. This city needs it. This fan base needs it. Quite frankly, the state needs it. 2011 was a decade ago. So yeah, where's Giannis with the knee injury? Who's your number 2? Is Bud on the hot seat? He has been willing to make, and I'll give credit where credit's due. Bud's been frustrating at times. And we've been frustrated with him in regards to not making changes or making changes that didn't make any sense, or the rotations. And it seems like this year he's a little bit more open to making some changes, maybe some changes that he might not even be comfortable with. Switching on defense, wide open guys in the corner, just frustrating stuff at times. So we're going to get into the Bucks. We think, I mean, in my opinion, I think they're content on the 3 seed. I don't know if that really matters. Does seeding matter? It's going to, I think, this year. Last year, it did not matter. But if you're telling me in the second round, after you play more than likely Atlanta, oh, hello, Bogdanovich, Mark Stein tweeting, oh, this is why the Bucks wanted him. We know why we wanted him. The NBA knew why we wanted him. Thanks, Mark Stein. We know why we wanted Bogey. Everybody knows. The NBA knew what bringing that type of player on this team would have done. They may not have had Drew Holiday. Maybe they did. Maybe they could have got him. I mean, I think Dante was part of that package for Bogdanovich. Well, he wasn't part of the Drew Holiday package. So I think if my memory's serving me right, and if you're tuning in and watching, let me know if I'm wrong. I think Dante was the centerpiece to that Bogdanovich trade. So it'll be an interesting playoffs. Hopefully this team's healthy. Hopefully this team is hot. Right now they're 4 out of their last 10. I mean, half the team didn't play Friday. I don't think any of the starters played Friday last week, which is another frustrating thing. I know Sparky's got his feel on that as well, and I'm equally upset about it too, because if you're going into Charlotte and you're going into a Charlotte team that's just as banged up, you're fighting for the seeding, man. If you're really content with the 3 seed, guess what the 3 seed is going to do? You win in that first round, as you should. You get Brooklyn or Philly in the second round. I don't know about you guys. That's not somebody I want to see in the second round. I mean, quite frankly, it's really not. I'm not too thrilled with seeing Brooklyn or Philly and going and having, not having home court advantage either. Now, I'm not sure. I'd be lying to you if I told you I knew what their how many fans are allowed to come in. So I'm not really sure if it's really going to be home court. I don't like playing in Brooklyn because of that lighting. It's just a super weird arena. So it's exciting to get into some playoff talk here coming up, and then get to these Brewers. Man, these Brewers. This is exciting. I don't want to jump the gun, and I'm absolutely going to jump the gun. And somebody is going to remember what I said, and they're going to follow me on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at Wisco_Brandon. And somebody is going to remember the words that are about to come out of my mouth. And I can't believe I'm about to say it. How good, in your guys' opinion, is this starting rotation? Now it's early. I get it. Super early. Or talking only 10 games into the season. This Brewer starting rotation has a very real possibility, in my opinion, to be some of the best starting rotations we may ever see. Maybe throughout Major League. Rotations, not players, rotation in total. I'm talking starting rotation and bullpen. I mean, you're talking about a rotation right now that has a sub 2 ERA. I mean, that's incredible. It's incredible. And if you go back and a stat that kind of shocked me, I wouldn't say shocked me. I know he was pretty good last year. But if you go all the way back to last July, Corbin Burnes statistically has been the best pitcher in Major League Baseball. The best. First in ERA. Not even 0.87. Second in strikeouts and fourth in WHIP. Dating back to last July 27th to now. And it's been phenomenal. Adam, I completely agree with you. Adam drops by on the YouTube live stream. Brewers pitching has been tops to start the season, and he's exactly right. And that's what we're talking about right now. If you guys are just tuning in, appreciate it. I am your host, Brandon. Follow me on Twitter at Wisco_Brandon. Follow our Twitter page at Brew City Pod, and also hop in on Facebook. Show us some love with a like and a follow. We greatly appreciate it. So yeah, Adam is right. Adam hit it right on the head. And it's just what we've been talking about right now. This Brewer pitching is the tops in the league. And it may be the tops for the rest of the year. I mean, they're that good. They're really good. Your top 3 pitchers. Remember, going into the year, Freddy Peralta was your number 5 starter. Freddy Peralta just threw 6 innings last night with 2 hits, 1 run as your number 5. Freddy Peralta, 0.6 ERA. Corbin Burnes, 0.7. I mean, Brandon Woodruff is your number 1, and he's at 2.4. I mean, Adrian Hauser, 1.8 ERA. Bullpen's been a little bit shaky to start the year. The bullpen, to me, is one that I wouldn't say scares me a little bit. I think they just need a little bit of time, need a little bit of rhythm. Devin Williams came out on the mound last night. There was some confusion with Perdomo. Devin Williams just couldn't find the strike zone, and I think it's just a little bit of rust. Just shaking off the rust. It's the long year. And that's the thing that, we're kind of getting into is it's a long year. It's a very long year. It's not a 60-game sprint anymore. It's not, are we even going to have a baseball season? I mean, it's a very long year. But can this starting rotation keep this success? I mean, this is a very, very talented pitching rotation. This is a rotation that we saw going back a few months ago, even a few years ago. This is what we were excited about going into 2018 with Woodruff coming up and Burnes and Peralta. We've seen it on Mother's Day a couple of years ago. Everybody talks about it when Peralta takes the mound. We've seen what they're capable of. I think that they're finally all starting to put it together at the same time. And I think that is what's going to propel this team to a division championship. The offense is slowly breaking out of that slump. I know last night was an aggravating type of game. I was texting a friend last night, and ladies and gentlemen, I am joined right now by our special guest, You guys know him as Sparky, Steve Sparky Fifer at 1250 AM The Fan out in Milwaukee, actually part of the statewide network at the Wendy's Big Show. You can listen to them every day of the week, 10 to 2. And also, this is really awesome. This was one of my favorite announcements in the last few weeks. Sparky's Midday Madness back Monday through Friday, 2 to 3. Sparky, how you doing, sir?
Doing good, man. How are you?
I'm awesome. I just, hey, I wanted to thank you for coming on to the show. And before we get started, I got to make you feel old for a quick second. I know you just came on the show and you're the special guest, but funny story about Sparky. If you guys are tuning in, and my mom's listening, and she's gonna love this story, and she remembers it very, very good. I got into sports radio. I was a kid, and I used to listen to Sparky on my way to school, and I would not let change the radio dial. It was back when I believe you were on the mornings with Doug Russell, if I'm not mistaken. And that was probably 06, 07, 08 timeframe. And I've been a fan of yours. Appreciate you coming on. Thank you. How you doing?
Doing good, man. Just actually got in the car, so I'm driving. So probably not good to have video while I'm driving. So that's why I'm kind of doing it via phone here. Safety first,
first and foremost. So we're excited to have you. I was just kind of talking about this Brewers rotation. I know you guys had a jam-packed show today. Craig Counsell was on the show with you guys today and kind of got into the Arcia trade and all kinds of good stuff. What's kind of stuck out to you the start of this year? I know it's early and we're only 10 games in, but there's a lot of positives so far. Well, what kind of sticks out in your mind?
Yeah, I think for me, it's Freddy Peralta and Travis Shaw. I think those are the two guys right now that you look at and say, they can play to the level they're playing at right now. And Freddy Peralta's not going to sub-1 ERA, obviously, but Freddy Peralta's ERA is around 3 for the year. And, he gives them, 5-6 innings consistently. And Travis Shaw hits, 250 to 270 with 25, 30 home runs. This goes from being a good team to possibly being a special team. Because when you start talking about how to go to a World Series and win a World Series, it comes down to pitching in the postseason. And to have Burns, Woodruff, and then Freddy Peralta possibly as your 3, there's not going to be many teams that can run out 3 better starting pitchers than that in a postseason series.
Oh, I completely agree. And, I'm super excited about the Travis Shaw. When he was picked up, and he was given the minor league deal, a lot of fans were like, okay, cool, whatever. But aside from his bat, his defense this year has been phenomenal. I mean, he's just been a stone wall out there at third base.
Yeah, he's played really well. If you mentioned we had Craig Counsell on earlier today on the Wendy's Big Show. And Counsell, Gary Ellerson asked him about, the Arcia deal. And he just said, look, we saw Travis Shaw in spring training, and he reminded us of how he looked in 2017 and 2018. And if that's what they saw, then based on what I've seen so far, that does look like who Travis Shaw is at this point. That's why you're able to move Orlando Arcia, and that's why, you're not too concerned about it, because instead of playing these games of rotating, 5-10 guys into third base, I'm exaggerating a little bit. Now you can just play Travis Shaw pretty much, 4 days a week, 5 days a week, get Robertson a day here or there, and let Travis Shaw, do his deal and put up huge numbers offensively.
And it's exciting to see the offense start to click again. And it's very important. I don't know if you caught the lineup yet today. Yelich is going to miss his second straight game. Obviously, Colton Wong is out as well. So it is good as lately the last 2 games. Obviously, they had 9 runs in St. Louis, 6 runs last night. It's good to kind of see this offense going, because when you mix this offense, and I was just making a statement before you joined, and it may come back and bite me in the butt, but I don't know, Sparky. I'm a lifelong Brewers fan. This might be the best starting rotation I've ever seen in Milwaukee. And I know.
I still say, look, it definitely has the best front 2 that we've had, providing these guys, Woodruff and Burns, pitch like they've pitched. Definitely the best front 2 guys we've seen. Definitely the best homegrown guys in a rotation all at once. For certain, no question about that with Burns and Woodruff. You got Peralta in the Lynn trade or whatever, but he pretty much, came through your farm system too, to a certain degree after you got him. So those 3 all together is pretty impressive. Now, Hauser, realistically, he's probably going to be like your 4th best starter, a guy that's still young, that you still have control over. And if his ERA is around 4.5, 4.5 or whatever, that's still pretty good for being that late in the rotation. And Brett Anderson, if he's pitching well, is a ground ball machine who's more than good enough to be like a fifth starter in this rotation. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, you might be right. Maybe this is the best 5 that they've had.
I know it's, I mean, and again, like, and I mean, I've called into the show for for years. I'm a diehard Milwaukee fan. So they don't get more homer than I get. So that's okay if I make that statement, because I'll stick by it, till the grave. But I mean, it's just when you see him go out there and you see Woodruff go into the 6th inning or 7th inning with a no hitter. You see Freddy strike out 10 last night in 6 innings pitch. You see Corbin Burns. I mean, Corbin Burns and Freddie Peralta have a sub-1 ERA right now. Combined as a starter, they're under 2. I mean, as of right now, I know it's very early. And again, there's a whole 150 games left. I mean, it's gonna eventually, maybe tater off a little bit. But for right now, with that bullpen, and if the offense gets going, I mean, I don't see how you don't win the division.
I agree. And I think I had him at 92 wins when we made our predictions before opening day to win the division as well. And that's the thing. When you have great pitchers in the rotation, you're going to avoid losing 6-7 games in a row, because these guys are going to shut down a team eventually, and you're going to win a game 2-0 or 3-1 or whatever. And in years past, with this Brewers offense, when it went into tank, your pitching wasn't good enough to overcome it, and that's how you ended up in these long, drawn-out slumps that the Brewers have found themselves in. And even when that's happened recently, they've still been able to make the postseason. Mm-hmm. Now imagine if you take out these 6- and 7-game losing streaks that happen once or twice throughout the course of the season, normally a couple of times. Take those out, puts you even in a better position to go on runs. Now, the question is going to be, how many starts will Burns miss? How many starts will Woodruff miss? How many starts will Peralta miss? Mm-hmm. Because coming off of that abbreviated season last year into this year, as David Stearns has said on our show, it was probably going to be difficult to imagine somebody making 30 or 32 starts throughout the course of a season. So they're going to make less starts. And then guys like Josh Lindblom, God help us, is probably going to have to make a start here and there throughout. And you got to do your best when that guy's in.
Do you think that if the Brewers are in the position, and both of our opinions, I had him at 90, you got him at 92, so we're pretty locked into each other. Do you see? Obviously, he wasn't afraid to pull the trigger on Arcia. In my opinion, I think they've been trying to trade Arcia for a few years now. Do you see maybe a big trade possibly? I know we're way looking ahead of the future, too far ahead, but is it something that maybe Stearns isn't going to be afraid to do? He's got Christian Yelich in his prime. You got probably the best starting rotation you've had in quite some time. You got Colton Wong. You got, Kane's, getting older. Jackie Bradley Jr. came in here as a free agent. Is this that type of year where you see the division kind of down a little bit compared to years prior? Maybe like an all-in type move from Stearns, if need be, if it's even out there.
I think, they've been very consistent, they being the Brewers, and having available funds to make that move if they want to make that move at a deadline. And Mark Etzadowski, the owner of this team, has been very consistent with that, of allowing them to go get somebody they think is going to make a difference. And that's nice if you're the general manager or president of the baseball operations, whether it's GM Matt Arnold, the president David Stearns. It's nice to be able to have that. Now, having said that, you start looking ahead, and we are way looking ahead as far as, what you may need. Now, obviously, the health of players could dictate what your need becomes. If somebody gets hurt or whatever, that isn't a need right now because you don't foresee injury, then obviously that becomes a need. But I think, if everybody is healthy and playing like they should, I think what you're going to look and see is the need is probably going to be, another arm to put back there with Hader and hopefully Devin Williams if he comes around. Because what you'd love to see is kind of like the Royals did when they went to the World Series 2 years back, and some of these other teams where you can shorten the game to 6 innings, and then three flamethrowers that set these guys down in order fairly consistently night in and night out, where you've got the other team pressing to have the lead after 6, knowing chances are slim that they're going to be able to win this ball game if they're not winning after 6. That's really what you want. So
absolutely,
to add another closer type arm back there with Williams and Hader at the deadline, I think would be ideal. Again, providing everybody's health.
I completely agree with that, and I mean, obviously, I tip the hat to David Stearns. I think he's been absolutely phenomenal since he got into that role. Speaking of David Stearns with the Arcia trade, what kind of your thoughts on it? I know Urias had a big hit last night. He's been struggling, pretty big time at the plate all year. I love the kid. I mean, he's got high potential to me. Obviously, you get rid of Arcia, who's been here for the last 7 years. Do you see Urias as like a bridge to Bryce Terrain? Because I know they're huge on. I know he's, they got high hopes for him down in. I don't even know if he's in AA or AAA, wherever he's at right now. I mean, do you see is Urias a long-term option at shortstop, or is this more of a bridge to the future?
I think if you don't believe in him, then he's probably not the bridge to Terang, and maybe Terang ends up at third base. If you don't believe in him, then yeah, he's probably a bridge to him at that point. That's kind of how I look at it. I think if he works out, then Terang probably ends up at third base, might be my guess, or maybe Terang does end up at shortstop and Urias moves over to second. Colson Long isn't exactly a spring chicken. I don't care what Craig Counsell says about Keston Hiura. I do not believe they will ever go back to him full time at second base.
I don't.
If he hits well at first base and doesn't make a lot of errors and figures this out, I think that's where he's going to stay. If he hits well at first base and he's a problem defensively, I think they could eventually trade him in the next year or two to a team that could use him as a DH and go find themselves a real first baseman. I really, 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 really want them to go draft a stud first baseman in the amateur draft. That's what I want. And I understand that I don't know if they would say they're categorically opposed to that, but they don't like drafting the Prince Fielders of the world. They like drafting athletes and then moving them to wherever they want to move them. I, on the other hand, love drafting a big, floppy, power hit first baseman that's, just going to hit bombs time in and time out. That's like six. And again, Fielder wasn't tall, but give me a 6'4" first baseman that can hit home runs. That's what I want. I'll pass on all these other versions of how they've been trying to play first base over the years.
I completely agree. And if you're just joining me, I got Steve Sparky Fifer from 1250 AM The Fan. Find him on the statewide network on the Wendy's Big Show. Find him on Twitter at Sparky Radio. Sparky, I got to dip into the Bucks because if you listen into the show, if people know Sparky, and you better know who Sparky is if you like the Bucks, how worried are you about the knee? I know we've been told not to be worried, but how worried are you?
I'm getting more concerned the longer this goes. Again, earlier today when we talked about it with Gary and Leroy, and a caller brought up tendonitis, and they both said, yeah, that could be what it is, or some meniscus stuff going on, and neither one of them said that, okay, well, if they get it fixed here with the rest, mice, all of that, neither one said that it wouldn't come back again. So, from that perspective, if it's a tendonitis thing, then it's just going to be a matter of can you play through it. Now, clearly, it's not a big deal to them because it's the regular season. And they're more about, look, we're going to be judging what we do in the postseason, not the regular season. And they're right in that aspect. That's exactly how they're going to be judged going forward. But again, the longer he stays out and you're not saying what's going on, the more suspicious everybody's going to be as far as what this is. Durant goes out, they tell you what's wrong with Durant. Harden goes out, they tell you what's wrong with Harden. Kyrie sits out, it could be a numerous different things. Who knows with Kyrie? But LeBron, Anthony Davis, those guys go up. He can tell you, okay, he's got this. He'll be back in 2 or 3 weeks. It's no playing games. And here, we're just playing games for the last couple of weeks instead of just telling us what's going on. So I have no idea. This whole load management thing, no. You're not sending a guy 5 straight games for load management. You send a guy 5 straight games because something's wrong.
And that's kind of what, kind of leading into my next topic was, obviously Giannis, and we all know this, Giannis is not the type of player to miss games. He never has. I mean, even when he's banged up, Giannis is out there. And look what he did in Portland when he was hurt with the initial knee at 48 points. I mean, this guy does not miss games. He hates missing games. So, and then you look at the lineup last week, Friday, I had a live show last week, Friday. I got off the air and I was super excited to sit down and watch a Bucks game. And right before I get on the show and I look at the starting lineup and all the starters are out. And I'm like, to me, I think this team is content on the 3 seed. And I think that's a mistake, to be honest with you.
I think they're not too concerned about it. And I think the other thing is, they very well may look at the 1 seed and go, it's not like they're that far out in front. We can make that up in a couple of weeks and get right back to where we want to be once we want to be there. I agree with you that the 2 and the 3 seed is a problem. Not that it's a problem in the first round. The problem is going to be in the second round when you have to face the other seed. To think that you want to have to try and go through Philadelphia or Brooklyn or whatever in the second round of the playoffs, to then have to go face the other one in the conference finals. That's a lot tougher road to go through, I think, than if you're the 1 seed. That's just me, though. I mean, I could be wrong, I guess.
I'm with you.
I would much rather be the 1 seed go the other way. But, there's that whole theory of, look, if you're the best, then you should be able to beat whoever we put in front of you. So, we'll see.
And my concern with that too is, I mean, I can see that argument, and I you could have an argument. That's fine. What my concern is this isn't the same team of 2019, 2020. I mean, you got, Bobby Portis is new. Drew Holiday is new. PJ Tucker is new. I mean, this is not the team that's been together for the last 5 years. These guys are all important core pieces of the team. When you talk about Drew Holiday, have not played with each other all year. I mean, Drew Holiday missed from COVID, and Bobby Portis missed from COVID. Not that Bobby Portis is a core, but you still want that rotation to have some kind of fluidity to it. And Giannis and Drew are still trying to work, figure out how to play with each other. And it kind of worries me that they haven't played a whole lot together. I mean, is that something to be crazy about, or?
No, I don't think it's something to be crazy about. The other thing too is now there's a report out today that Joe Johnson's working out for the Bucks this week.
40-year-old Joe Johnson.
39-year-old Joe Johnson is going to work out. So now you're going to add that piece to it as well. If you decide to bring him in, and that is, a guy off the bench, come in and provide some offense behind Dante DiVincenzo, which, again, or better yet, to take Pat Connaughton's minutes, I'd be fine with that too. But see, that's the thing here is, at the end of the day, it's going to be not necessarily, I don't think, about chemistry necessarily. It's more going to be about when you're facing Philly and Brooklyn, and God forbid they get Miami at some point, it's going to be how you close games in the last 4 to 5 minutes. In a tight game, who's taking the reins, who's doing what, and more importantly, who's going to be on the floor at that point. Is Budenholzer going to make the right decision? And that's the one thing is, you talk about Friday night's game, and luckily you didn't buy tickets and waste your money to that.
No kidding.
But a Jordan Nwora, who's a second-round pick, who's playing his butt off every time he's given the opportunity, he finally got a little bit of run last game with the starters actually played. Is he going to be trusted in the postseason to be playing in a big situation? Is that why they're looking at Joe Johnson? Because they want more of a veteran-type guy? Maybe more so than even Pat Connaughton to be in that situation at the end of the game, so they don't have to play Pat C necessarily at the end. And there has to be a reason you're bringing him in. So unless it's a favor to the agent to try and get Joe Johnson some publicity, which I guess could be a possibility, but I would think that you do have interest, and it revolves around the playoffs and his experience in the postseason, and having that guy at the end of games that can hit a big shot on a draw and kick from Holiday or Giannis or Middleton.
And I think that's going to be the biggest difference. A lot of people, and if last week I dove into like a 20-minute love fest because I really love Drew Holiday. And I think that the difference in this year's playoffs versus 2019 and 2020 is, I think, and my hope is that Drew Holiday is going to be that difference, that we did not have in those playoffs. What are your thoughts on that? And also, what are your thoughts on Drew Holiday stating he's a Buck for life and signing that extension?
Well, I mean, he's not getting any younger either. So, I mean, he may just be looking at it and say, I'm done after this. Like, I've made more than enough money. This is going to set my family up. And maybe he decides that he's pretty much done. I think Drew Holiday has been a huge addition to this Bucks team. He's better than Eric Bledsoe. But again, it's all going to depend on what happens in the postseason. Drew Holiday has played very, very well for certain. But what I want to see is what's going to happen when they're all on the court together. Drew Holiday, Middleton, and Giannis. Everybody talks about the Nets and, oh boy, what's going to happen there? Well, I want to know what's going to happen with the Bucks. Because in end-of-game situations, is Budenholzer going to go to Drew Holiday and go, this is your shot. Go get it. Is he going to do that? Or are we going to run everything through Giannis? That's the first option. Let him take that, 15 to 20-foot jumper and see if he hits it, I guess. Nothing's open. Or how is this going to work at the end of the game? How is it going to work in the last 3-4 minutes of the game? Is it going to be the Giannis show trying to close it out? Is it going to be we're going to go to more true holiday? I kind of given up on Middleton at the end of games from their perspective. I think Middleton could still hit big shots at the end of games. I'd be fine with that too. That's what I want to see, because so many times when Eric Bledsoe was here, he would just kind of be a shadow to Giannis and Middleton and would just kind of stay out of it. And then if one of them got in foul trouble or got hurt, then he got more aggressive offensively. And that's the one thing I want to see what's going to happen with Drew Holiday. What will he be like in the playoffs when they need buckets? Is he going to defer, or is he going to try and take charge and do something himself? That's what I'm ready to see.
Perfect segue into my next question for you, and we'll get wrapped up here soon. But my next question for you is, I ran a poll on Twitter at Bruce City Pod. I was kind of just trying to get a feel for where Bucks fans, because Middleton the night or the week prior, or whatever it was, a few days prior, was like 6 out of 27 for whatever how many points he was. He had a horrible game. So in your opinion, you got a max player. Giannis is your number one. He's arguably the best player in the NBA. But who's that number two behind Giannis, in your opinion? Now, I ran a poll, and it was kind of back and forth for a while, and I think the consensus came to Drew Holiday. I had a lot of comments in the live feed. I still lean towards Middleton just because of the shot-making ability. Not saying that Drew can't do that as well, but I think when Middleton is on, there's not a whole lot of players that can shoot as well as he does. In your opinion, two-part question, who is the number two, and do they need one?
We did the same thing on the Big Show, had the same conversation last week about Middleton and Drew Holiday. And Drew Holiday obviously is the guy that everybody's going to say. And my thought process on it is, as long as Giannis is there, it's going to be Chris Middleton. Maybe I'm wrong on this, but I just think Middleton is his guy. They've been there forever. And the third guy is going to be the third guy, unless, it's a no-doubter. If Kevin Durant's on the team, okay, fine. Okay, we're done having that conversation. Then it's probably Durant, then Giannis. And I think Giannis deals with that, and he is fine with that. But in this situation, and a couple of listeners brought it up, and that is 2A, 2B. Like, it's close. On a given night, it might be a different guy between Middleton and Drew Holiday. But I think in probably Giannis's mind, it's probably still Chris Middleton. In the coach's mind, now that's what I'd like to know. Maybe it's Pat Connaughton if it's Budenholzer. Who knows?
And that's, and going back to what you said before, I think that's what's going to be interesting going into the playoffs. Now, my final question, and I'll let you go here real quick. I not calling for anybody's job. I think Mike Budenholzer, does his job better than I do mine. But is this a make or break type playoff for him? Now, I know, players love playing for him, and he's a revered Popovich disciple. But if you're on another second round exit, Giannis just signed the Supermax. You got Drew Holiday, you got Chris Middleton here for long haul. Is this? And I don't want to call for his job. I pray to God that we all have a parade down in Water Street celebrating a championship. Is this like in your opinion, a make it or break it for Mike Budenholzer? To get at least through the Eastern Conference Finals?
If Wes Edens was the owner, I'd say no, it's not. But it's Mark Lazary. They're owners, obviously, but Lazary has the final say as governor. So, and this rotates every 5 years, remember, as part of this deal. Jamie Dimon didn't get apparently in on this. He got in on this too late to be a part of this. So he's not a part of it. But Lazary's a wild card in all this. We don't know. He definitely seems to be, in the conversations I've had with him and Edens, he definitely seems to be more of the fan.
For sure.
Maybe Edens. I'm not saying that Edens isn't a fan of the team. He is, but he tends to operate more like a business, maybe more so than Lazary. And remember, Mark Lazary, he wasn't a Budenholzer guy. That wasn't his guy who wanted.
No.
So take that into account for what it is, and knowing that they're going to have to pay the luxury tax now, it'll be interesting to see what happens if they get booed in the second round. Remember, Lazary is the one, not Edens, that went and got Jason Kidd while he still had a coach in Milwaukee.
Absolutely. I unfortunately do remember that. Ladies and gentlemen, he is Steve Sparky Fifer. Find him on Twitter at Sparky Radio. Also, go ahead and jump on Twitter while you're doing that and follow the Big Show Network at Big Show Network 10 to 2. Find Sparky on Sparky's Midday Madness 2 to 3. I promise you don't want to miss that hour because it is awesome. Sparky, I appreciate it, man. I know you're driving and you worked all day, so I greatly appreciate your time. Hopefully I can have you on in the near future.
Sounds good, man. I appreciate it. Take care.
Have a good one, Sparky. Steve drops off, and that's awesome. I mean, everybody that knows Bucks fans knows who Steve Sparky Fifer is. He's the pulse of the city on this team just as much as anybody. So it was good to get a lot of his thoughts and some of his thoughts going into this season with Mike Budenholzer being possibly on the hot seat. Who is your number two? Who should be your number two? Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page with Steve Sparky Fifer, and hopefully Bud does make the right calls. Speaking of calls, if you're paying too much for your cable bill, listen up real quick, because we're all paying too much for our cable bill. Hop on over to onecalltech.com, www.onecalltech.com, or give them a call at 888-585-8850 and tell them Brandon from the Brew City Lounge sent you over here. I promise you, you will save money on your cable bill. You're paying way too much these days. Switching over to the Brewers and heading into our final segment. I'm excited about what's going to happen tonight. You've got Brandon Woodruff on the mound versus the Brewers killer, is what I like to call him. We have Bucks killers. We have Brewer killers. Kyle Hendricks. Ugh. I don't know what it is with this guy. I don't know if he just has that much of a hold on this team, but it's going to be game 2. First pitch is 6:40. We're going to dive into previewing that before we call it a night. But I am excited about this game tonight, because I do think that you won 3 in a row. You just came off a series winning against St. Louis, huge at St. Louis. I believe it was their opening weekend at Busch Stadium. So that's huge. You're coming off a series win against St. Louis, and now you have the opportunity to establish another series win where you just beat this same team in Chicago last week. Now you have a chance to take game 2, maybe take game 3, but let's focus on game 2. And I don't care what anybody says. You hear people all the time, it's early. It's early. It's a long season, 162 games. It's a marathon, not a sprint. 100% agree. Never will disagree with that. But guess what? It took to game 163 2 years ago to win the division against the Cubs. These early divisional games matter. And I was texting with a friend last night, and I said the same thing. And he kind of agreed with me. It is a long season. You could lose 10 games in a row and you could still be fine. I get it. I want these early divisional series. I want to win, because I don't want to be chasing in July, in August, in September, and have to win 21 games like they did 2 years ago. I don't know about you guys. I want to take a hold of this division, and you have a perfect opportunity right away. I know Cincinnati's, on par with us. I'm not worried about Cincinnati long term. Not for the rest of the year, at least. But I want to know what your guys' thoughts are. Follow us on Twitter at Brew City Pod. Drop us a like and follow on Facebook at Brew City Lounge. Drop a comment in the live feed. What are your thoughts on this early Brewer season? It's very early. And you heard what I said to Sparky. You heard what I said prior to coming on the show, prior to Sparky coming on the show. I think that this is the best starting rotation that this franchise has ever had as a whole. And you could argue the bullpen is just as good. Historically, Hader and Williams are the best. I'm not going to compare them to, the 90s Braves or, maybe as far as the Brewers go, as far as this franchise goes. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I do not think, as a starting rotation, as a whole, 1 through 5. I mean, guys, if Adrian Hauser is your 5th starter, okay, or say he's your 4th, he's got a 1.80 ERA right now in 2 starts. 10 innings pitched and only allowed 2 runs. It's early. I get it. But man, they are fun to watch. Freddy, Peralta going on. I mean, it's must-watch TV. Every Brewers game is a must-watch TV for me. But holy mackerel, when you see Freddy Peralta dropping down 10, making Javier Baez throw his bat at the mound or let go of his bat, making guys fall on one knee while they're swinging at his slider. Corbin Burns just blowing through him, hitting the corners at 98. Brandon Woodruff going into a no-hitter into the 7th inning in Chicago. This is the opportunity, in my opinion, to have a very special year in Milwaukee. The Bucks are getting into the playoffs in next month, and the Brewers are off to a good start. 3 in a row. They're at home for a while. And let's hope that health, stays good, because we know, as a Milwaukee fan, we know that's what usually how it happens. Great start, best starting rotation, and then you lose a pitcher down for a year. And then it takes a hit on the whole rotation, not just one. Let's drop into some of the comments. Adam drops into a comment and says, if the offense catches up to the starting rotation and the bullpen, they will be a dangerous team. They could benefit from acquiring another arm close to the trading deadline. Adam, I think you're absolutely spot on. The offense has shown some flashes these last 2 games. Last night was fun, man. That 6 runs in that one inning. We were watching the game, and I was, again, texting with a friend, and I said, man, if they don't get something going, it's frustrating, because Freddy's dealing. He's dealing. One mistake to Chris Bryant. 2 hits, 1 earned run. I got to get the offense going. So, Adam, I completely agree. My dad, actually, Kendall, drops a comment. The 1982 Brewers, great pitching. They absolutely did. Absolutely. I mean, I went all the way to the World Series, so there's nothing that I can really argue with that. Obviously, I wasn't born or alive yet, so that's something that I wasn't able to see in person. I just read about it. But you arguably have 3. It's early. Again, proceed with caution. But I'm excited. I'm super excited. You have 3 potential Cy Young candidates. Don't forget, guys, last year, Corbin Burns was a Cy Young finalist, if I'm not mistaken. And they're all young. Freddy's 24 years old. He's been in the league for 3 or 4 years. 24 years old. Corbin Burns, 26. The old man in the group, I guess, if you want to call him old, he's 28. Brandon Woodruff, he's your number 1 starter. He's 28 years old. Don't forget, Devin Williams was a rookie last year. Christian Yelich is here for the long haul. Keston Hiura is not going anywhere. Avi Garcia looks like he's the Avi Garcia of the old days prior to COVID last year. Juan drops in a comment. Keep up the good work, buddy. #414. Juan, thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Shout out to him. He is the president and founder at Lounge Room Net. Follow him at Bears Fanatico 94 if you're a Bears fan. Thank you, Juan. So again, there's a lot to be excited about. There's a lot to be excited about. Get out to the ballparks. Tailgating's back open. Get out and enjoy the city. It's a lot of fun. This team is going to be a lot of fun this summer. And there's a lot of teams that are not going to want to play the Milwaukee Brewers. The hitters put a lot of pressure on opposing pitchers. They're feisty. Colton Wong will get back to being healthy. Lorenzo Cain is coming around to being healthy. Keep in mind, he missed a lot of spring training due to that quad. So it's exciting times for sure. And then back to the Bucks, and then we'll wrap it up. This is kind of what Sparky was talking about prior to him leaving. He wants to see what they do in the playoffs, and I'm with them. I'm tired of regular season success. And that may sound spoiled. I mean, that's fine. You got the best player in the NBA. You got a top 10 point guard. You got a top 10 2 guard. You got a great bench. What are you going to do when it's playoff time? We're going to bow out again in a second round against Miami? Or is Giannis going to learn what they're doing against him defensively? Is Bud going to adapt? Is the guy in the corner going to be wide open every single freaking time that they're down there? Is what it feels like. This team hasn't played together a lot. We got to also keep that in mind. They're still figuring out each other. Drew and Giannis are still learning how to play with each other. Giannis is still learning how to play with Drew. Drew's still learning how to play with Chris Middleton. So is Bud on the hot seat? That's a question. I mean, that's a great question. That's not a crazy question. I mean, that's a great question. I think Bud's a great coach. There's certain things I wish he would do versus what he has done. But look, I mean, that's okay. Hopefully he learns from his mistakes. Because I'm going to tell you right now, you just signed Giannis to the Supermax. You got Drew Holiday, 4-year extension. You got Chris Middleton, who signed a 5-year deal last year, max contract. These guys are together. This is your core. This is what's going to be on your team for the next 4 to 5 years. What are you going to do with those? This is the best team that Milwaukee, talent-wise, has ever seen in the last 20, 30 years. Obviously, Oscar and Kareem. But maybe the 2001 team, I guess you could argue. But this is arguably one of the best talented teams that we've seen in Milwaukee. So it's going to be a very interesting playoff run. And my dad drops in the comments, says, I think we're going to have a deep run in the playoffs this year. That's how good the Brewers are. He's talking about the Brewers. I completely agree. I mean, you guys heard it when Sparky was on. He said 92. I'm thinking 90 wins. And yeah, I don't think, you probably somewhere down the line find the Dodgers, Atlanta, or the Padres. If Tatis gets healthy, you probably see them somewhere down deep in the playoffs. So I agree with that. And he also drops in, you got to hope Giannis comes back. And yeah. And again, I said it earlier in the beginning of the show, prayers out to Jamal Murray. You hate to see that. Hopefully he bounces back. Such a talent out there. Such a great point guard. You talk about another two-way great point guard, and my infatuation with Drew Holiday. Jamal Murray is right there. I mean, you got to hope that he comes back and has a healthy recovery, and our thoughts and prayers go out to him. You hate to see it. If you are just catching up on the show, that's okay. Keep in mind, there is no Bucks game tonight. The Brewers kick off first pitch at 6:40. So that's going to be fun to watch tonight. Hopefully they can grab a win and grab a series win against the Cubs. Adam drops in one more comment, says mid-90 wins for Milwaukee. That's a lot, Adam. That's a lot. I mean, I hope you're not wrong. I hope you're not wrong. I'm thinking right about 90. And again, guys, Adam is not even a Brewers fan. He's a White Sox fan, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm pretty sure he's a White Sox fan because last week he was on because the White Sox didn't have a game. Adam's a loyal listener and a loyal supporter, and I appreciate him a ton. He says mid-90 wins. I guess we'll see. It's going to be interesting. As long as this Brewer team stays healthy, I really don't think that's out of the question. I'm thinking 90, somewhere between 88 to 90. Somewhere down the line, somebody's going to flare up an injury and go to the 10-day IL or the 20-day IL. But Adam, I hope you're right, because if it is around mid-90s, then I don't think that there's much that can stop us. Even LA, even Atlanta, as good as they are, as good as Acuna is, and Mookie and Tatis, this pitching staff stays healthy and stays as dominant as they have been. I don't see why it would be out of the question. Juan drops a comment, says, we all know the Sox will win against the Brewers this year, so count those games as L's. Whatever you say, Juan. At least he's not a Cubs fan, I guess. At least you're not a Cubs fan. So one more comment, we'll get wrapped up here. My dad says, I think Giannis's knee injury is worse than they're saying. And that's kind of what I alluded to with Sparky, because I kind of agree with you, because he doesn't miss games. And when you talk about Giannis, his number one thing about Giannis is he's loyal. and he's dedicated, and he does everything that he possibly can, no matter what. For him to miss 5 straight games, I don't think it is load management at all. This is something a little bit more serious. This is a little bit something lingering. And if anything, if you're going to learn anything from the Jamal Murray injury, now keep in mind, Jamal Murray was battling some knee soreness prior to that game as well last night. And when he landed down, obviously he tore his ACL. So proceed with caution with Giannis. You don't want to rush him in. We got about a little over a month left until the playoffs start. So I guess rest him. He was a full participant in practice today, according to Eric Name of the Athletic. So I guess that's positive. I don't know his practice schedule and what it's been. But yeah, so Brewers first pitch, 6:40, Bucks in action tomorrow. Stay tuned for Thursday's show. We are not going to be doing a Friday show. It is not going to be a live show. I believe I'm going to do it recording. Special guest Tim Dillard joins the show. If you're a Brewers fan, if you're a baseball fan, you know who Tim Dillard is. He is one of the anchors and hosts on Bally Sports TV. He is also a hilarious personality, pitched for the Brewers for 10 plus years in the majors and in the minors. He is set to join the show Thursday. If you're not going to be tuning in live, which I'm still undecided if we're going to be live or not, but please don't forget to subscribe to the show. You can find us on Google, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, basically wherever you get your podcast. And the support is so appreciated. Follow me on Twitter. I am your host. You can follow me on Twitter at Wisco_Brandon. You can follow the show social media pages on Twitter at Brew City Pod. Also give us a thumbs up and follow on Facebook at Brew City Lounge, and follow the network at Lounge Room Net. Brand new network. We're just kicking off. There's so much to look forward to. I look forward to diving into all things Bucks and Brewers all year with you, getting your takes, what it's going to take to get a championship into the city. I appreciate you taking the time today to take a listen. Again, don't forget to subscribe and download wherever you get your podcasts, and I will see you guys again on Thursday. Have a great day.